Hi, everybody. This is Angel Arts, and welcome to session number 12 of our Pokemon Spectrum tabletop campaign. Let's go ahead and dive right in. By the way, if you are watching and you haven't seen session 0 of the spin off cast, we actually just recorded their session 0. At least as of this recording last week, and included in their session 0 is actually all of their origin stories. And if you're watching the campaign and you want to get the full story, I highly recommend you look at their session 0 before you start watching this episode. Just a suggestion. So, let's now talk about the warm-up question. So this warm-up question is actually going to be a little deeper than some of the other warm-up questions we've dealt with in the past.
The cake or pie one?
No. Yeah.
You were playing us ahead of time, weren't you?
Yeah.
We can talk about... Why don't we... All right, let's do the cake or pie one. Sorry. For those of you who... We'll start with the lighter one, which... Oh, I'm sorry. This is probably going to be deeper than the other one, but we'll see. So one of the things we talked about in Discord was whether or not your trainer and the Pokemon that they play is a cake or pie person. And so why don't we just go around the room and say, my trainer is this kind of person and my Pokemon is this kind of person and this is why.
I was going to go, trick question, muffin. Easier to control the portion size. But no, she'd probably be more towards cake on a general day.
Okay.
It's a little sweeter, goes with tea.
I see that. How about for Lux?
Probably pie, just because there's more things you could add hot sauce to that would make sense without it being super weird.
Savory pies are not uncommon. Yes.
And I think that's why Cassie would actually favor pies too, because of the variety of them. You know, the versatility of the dessert. I also like to think that she and Nevi had their fair share back in the day. Because I think I recall you saying that was Nevi's preference as well. For Bullet, though, I would say he's probably more of a big cake kind of bat.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go Chase being a pie guy because he needs protein more than sugar. So just pragmatic reasons. And then for Remy, I think it would also be pie just because you can add, and I know he's not a meat eater. The Fennekins are sort of, I don't know how or why, but we've made it so that they do eat meat, but I think he would like to have some creature meat inside his pies. So.
Okay. Noir would probably prefer pie just because there's so many recipes you can try out and test out.
Mm-hmm. Fern?
And Fern would probably like cake because it's so soft and fluffy and pretty, but she'll probably just sit there and stare at it for a while rather than eat it. Then she'll go, oh, wait, have a little bit.
I'll admit, being a cake guy, it was very hard to put my mind in the pie sort of set. You know, I don't know if it was just me.
I mentioned on Discord that Molly used to be a pie person, but upon hearing that Dr. Pearl is a cake person, she might switch over to cake soon.
Okay.
And since Ew likes salty things, I think he's more of a pie person, like a nice meat pie or a nice savory pie. I think he would like that very much.
The other warm-up question I wanted to talk about is I actually wanted to flesh out more about the events that led up to and during the fall of Johto. Now, this is going to be different for Noir, so Ella, hold tight, I'll get to you. So, historically, at least for me, September 11th was a big deal. And myself and many people, I think, can say they remember so many details of what happened to them that day during the events of September 11th. And I kind of see the fall of Johto being sort of a similar impact on the world the similar impact worldwide. I would like to say that virtually every single person, no matter where you were, remembered the day when Johto fell. And it wasn't a one-day thing, because what ended up happening was there was reports from the Pokemon Rangers, at least from the Kanto side. There were reports from the Kanto Rangers informing the government that the Pokemon were rebelling in Johto and people were being attacked, and there was this whole organized war, basically, that the humans didn't know about until they were actually being attacked, and people were panicking. People weren't really confused. They didn't really know what was going on. And whatever news you got was trickling in. And the Pokemon were very good about keeping a lot of the details of the war vague, because, as I said, if any reporters or cameras or satellites or whatever came to see what was happening or try to report on what was happening, it would get shot down. So it was a very scary time. And Kanto, fortunately, because of the work of the Rangers, were able to hold the wall, although some people were wondering if that's just because the Pokemon at the time weren't really concerning themselves too much and going beyond Johto. So maybe that's why we were fine, because they didn't really try to go over the wall. Because I guess they felt it was, one place at a time. So there's still conspiracy. It's only been 10 years. So there's still people who are thinking that eventually they're going to try to expand their empire, I guess, past Johto. So anyway, the news was limited, and Kanto's attitude, especially since people like the Kearneys were rising in power politically, their attitude was very, I told you so, Johto. You should have put up that wall like we did. Everything would have... And you should have, regulated your Pokemon better and not let all these super dangerous creatures just, run amok, because now they rebelled and you're SOL. So a lot of the government in Kanto was like that, unfortunately. So I guess what I wanted to have you guys think about is try to put yourself in your character's shoes 10 years ago, when they just started hearing about this on the news. And I kind of want you to give me your take on what happened to you and how you dealt with the situation. Were you panicking? Were you numb? Were you like in a dream state, like cathartic state, and not exactly sure that all of this was real? And what how you ended up ultimately dealing with it. Because again, like I said, it's been 10 years now. I mean, I remember how things were 10 years after September 11th, and things are pretty much back to normal 10 years prior. Then again, this is a larger scale, because this is an all-out war. Not to minimize the events of September 11th, but in game, we're talking about like an entire nation that had fallen, and even now you don't really know much of what's going on over there, and it's probably scary still to this day for a lot of people. So I just wanted to figure that out, because I think that might be something important moving forward. If you want me to stall, you can pick an NPC and I'll answer the exact same question.
May I ask you to expand a little bit?
Sure. What would you like specifically to expand?
You say news was limited, but about how long was the conflict going on? Like from the first point where we heard about it to where we heard like Johto's fallen,
Yeah. So I would say that for the first week, it was pretty much code red all over the place, because people didn't know necessarily if the Pokemon were going to continue past Johto. So for like the first week, people were like amassing the military, people were being drafted, and many people were being sent over to help with the war effort, to try to take Johto back. And then I think after doing it for a week, like, the Pokemon were just too powerful. Now, I don't want to say that a lot of people died, but I think it seemed like the Pokemon were trying to be more on the defensive than the offensive. So I don't think that they were necessarily out to just kill everybody willy-nilly. I think they were more concerned about holding that area more than let's just kill every single person who tries to come here. So at a certain point, it just like people just ended up saying this is suicide. Like, if you're going to send more people over there, either A, these people are greatly overpowered. We're just not prepared for this. We're not equipped to go up against a Pokemon that's as hot as the sun or 10 times hotter than the sun. Like, that's just not something we can do right now. Maybe later we can. So, there were strategic retreats, and then, there was also people who were against the war who thought, well, maybe we can just appease the Pokemon. Maybe if we tell them we're really sorry, they'll stop. And maybe if we, promise to stop sending soldiers over there to take it back, they'll leave the rest of us alone, cut our losses. And I think that's what the nations ended up deciding to do is, they can't do, Johto is a lost cause. We would be shooting ourselves in the foot if we keep trying to force it. So they just stopped, and for the last 10 years, there's been peace. It doesn't look like the Pokemon have been interested in going past Johto, but you do know that there are other nations like I would say the Unova region, for example. I think the Unova region in particular are actively trying to do some heavy research scientifically to try to ultimately take Johto back, or to help Johto come back. Kanto probably is not so concerned about that. I think they're just trying to get back to business as usual. So I would say that people started pulling their forces back after the first month and a half. And it's sort of been the fanpy in the room ever since, that hey, we're fine, everything's cool, we're not sitting right next to a ticking time bomb at all.
So the war itself then was like 2-3 months long, essentially?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say so.
May I ask another?
Sure.
Is Johto now just like a land of, just wild Pokemon that have sovereignty over themselves? Or are there also people there? Like, was there an effort to have everyone, move in, like to Kanto or another region? Or did we kind of just try to forget about the people who were living there and move on? You know what I mean?
Okay, so I know a lot of people, of course, fled from Johto, and naturally, because Kanto is right there, they tried to flee to Kanto. I think that the people at the walls, of course, tried to accommodate the people fleeing into Kanto, but then, there became the issue of we can't take this many people here all at once. Right. So I think near the end, the government's been pretty hush-hush about it, but they may or may not have had to stop letting people in.
Okay. I mean, because part of what made me ask is you said that the Pokemon in Johto weren't specifically like trying to kill everyone. They were just kind of trying to, they took ground and they were trying to hold it. And so I figure all the people kind of had to go somewhere or stay there, I suppose, but under the control of the Pokemon.
Yeah, it seemed like that they did a combination of killing but also taking prisoners.
So they weren't ones to like hand the other humans over.
Yeah.
Like,
and
we don't want these, take care of them.
Something along those lines. And when I said they were on defensive, I meant psychic Pokemon, for example, would put up barriers so that you couldn't come in to their space. Like they were defending the space so they couldn't come in or attack into it. But if anyone really, really tried to force their way in, they were either shot down or taken as prisoner. There are also people in the world who believe that this is all a hoax. Like the war didn't actually happen. This is all just one big government conspiracy, and that everything in Johto is completely fine, and it's actually this big paradise that the government doesn't want you to know about. And shame on you for being fooled by all of this media coverage of this so-called rebellion. Stuff like that.
Anyone have a PC suggestion?
I would like Keith personally, just because journalist.
Yes. So this hit Keith pretty hard. So he was in his 20s, so I'm going to say that he was like in college at this point. Most of his family was from Johto, so that hit him pretty hard. He was on the phone with his mom. He finally got through because signals were horrendous when he started hearing what was happening. He was on the phone with his mom and his dad because they were living there at the time, and he tried to tell them to leave as quickly as possible. And she was saying it's been very difficult because there's a lot of chaos. Everybody's trying to leave at the same time, and they're trying to frantically pack up their things. And he's like, no, mom, don't fuss over packing up whatever. Just take dad and go. And he heard from her one other time, and then he never heard from her again. So to this day, 10 years later, he doesn't know what happened to his parents. He also had a brother who was studying in college at the time, and he didn't even get a hold of him. So he doesn't know what happened to his brother either. At the university, it was a big shock. And the professors, one particular professor he had was particularly insensitive because they decided to throw a pop quiz that day, despite what was happening. And I'm speaking from personal experience. Like on September 11th, a lot of stuff was happening. And I understand teachers were trying to keep things as normal and business as usual for the students as possible. But I don't know, throwing a pop quiz that day just seemed a little in poor taste to me. But so that bothered him a lot, and he stormed out of the classroom in a huff, and was not very happy about that. And he just refused to go to classes that day. Fortunately, the president of the university said that classes were canceled halfway through. There was a vigil that took place later that evening in the community, which he participated in. And he was so frustrated that it was so difficult to get any information of what was happening, because of course he wants to know what happened to his family, and he wanted there to have been better media coverage. Not that it was the media's fault, but he was just so frustrated at the lack of information that was happening, because everybody's scared, and he felt that if you're informed, you're less scared. Even if the things you're getting informed of is scary stuff, at least you know, and you can deal with it. So I think that is part of why he wanted to become a journalist, because he wanted to help in the effort of informing the public about the truth of things, no matter how hard it can be. And I know that he really, really wants to go to Johto himself on location, but like none of his managers or bosses would ever let him, or ever, of course, finance him to go, because that's just suicide in their eyes. But he keeps insisting, and he keeps asking, and they keep telling him no, understandably so. So Yeah, I think that right today, 10 years later, he he hasn't completely dealt with it. Um, I think he's still suffering a bit of PTSD from this situation, and that's a lot of the his outwardly goofiness, I guess, that he comes off as a pretty laid back kind of guy and very, very happy go lucky, but deep inside internally, a lot of it is just a front for him to give himself the illusion that everything is okay and his life is fine and he wasn't scarred 10 years prior. That's been his coping mechanism ever since. Good character to choose.
I think 10 years ago, Molly was either in a foster home or maybe in some kind of orphanage or some kind of care. And
Sure.
I imagine that the day that the news actually broke, to Molly, it was probably just background noise because she was probably just trying to focus on what she needed to do that particular day. But I imagine as the day went on and as the week went on and Molly started to slowly pick up on what everyone else was listening to or watching on TV, she started to slowly realize what was happening. And I like to think that finding out about the revolution, the Pokemon revolution, the first thing she thought of the Poliwhirl that had comforted her when she was a child. And up until then, she had had a very positive memory of Pokemon and how they had helped her. But this actually kind of dampened her feelings about Pokemon, which I think was it was kind of doubled down later with the Midina attack on her and Irene. So I think by the time she adopted Bullet, she had a fairly negative opinion of Pokemon up until that point. And I think part of that is because of what happened with the war and the Midina. So in terms of the war itself, at the time, Molly didn't really think about it that much. Like, she understood that it was a terrible thing happening, but to her, it was something very far away. So
Yeah.
it didn't concern her that much. She's more
Right.
concerned about the here and now.
Yeah.
And now when she thinks about it, she still remembers where she was at the time. I think she was like sitting in her room, probably drawing in her journal or something. And when she heard it and finally really understood what it was. But at the time, she didn't pay it much mind. And I think up until now, she probably still hasn't.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
And many people had the attitude of, oh, this is something far away. It doesn't really concern me too much because it doesn't directly affect me, or at least in their mind, it doesn't directly affect them.
This would have been Tiffany around 20. So if this were a school day, let's just go to class, just get through school, and afterward go home, check in. Is everyone okay with my family? Yes, we're all this side of the wall. No one's doing military. No one's a ranger. Okay, everything's good.
Okay.
How bad could it get? Oh, okay, it got really bad.
Okay. And how about now? Is this just something that just happened 10 years ago and
Yeah.
you're not really
It's
concerned about it
tragic.
too much?
But until we're actually ready to go either sign a peace treaty or put an end to it one way or another, which she ultimately has no say in.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think with Chase, he would have been 14, and he wouldn't have a memory, as has been validated now in the some prior episodes. He'd have some memories, but I think they'd all be foggy at that point, anyways. I think he wouldn't. I don't think he would have been by media, to be honest, but he would have heard of it. He would have heard of it from the inputs of people around him. So he would have had more of an emotional response to it from the perspective of he was literally absorbing people's emotion, but he wasn't having his own. And I think it would have taken a while for him to finally get settled in the city and then pick up that information through going out to seek out, like, okay, wait, what happened? Is this memory real? Like, am I making this up? Is this part of my PTSD? Like, he wouldn't have understood that as a kid, but as he got older, he would have questioned whether or not it was a conspiracy or whether it was not. I think at this point, at 24, he would know enough that it's a thing. Like, he doesn't think it's fake or anything like that, but he doesn't have a direct connection to the events because he wouldn't have been able to absorb them properly.
So I don't think that this would have like impacted little 10-year-old Cassie directly, of course, because
Yeah.
I don't think she has anyone who was in Johto at the time or whatever, and just the fact
No.
that she was so young. The months like leading up to it, or as it went on, with what little information came through, she didn't hear much about it directly, but I like to think that her dad in particular, if not just both of her parents, helped talk to her about it and, kept her aware of the situation because of how real and serious I think it was. I just like to think her dad would take that kind of stance with her, given how close they were and things like that. And I think that the day Johto fell, she was probably just in elementary, just attending school. I like to think that they took a minute of silence, and then I imagine the teacher like passing out a sheet of paper to everyone and asking them to draw their happiest moment that they can remember with a Pokemon. And after that, like after the school day, I see her going home and talking to her dad again about it, and just looking kind of to his guidance and everything, because I see her finding it, on top of it just being surreal, because such a big thing that she has not seen like in her life, and then for it being so distant too, as sort of like a fascinating but fascinatingly like terrifying sort of event, where again she hasn't seen that side of Pokemon. She of course is becoming increasingly familiar even at that age with how supposedly powerful some Pokemon can be, from both her studies in school and her work with her dad and just her own curiosity. But things like that were just kind of contained in myths, or like the primitive times, I would imagine, of their history. So she took it from a very kind of neutral standpoint, where thankfully over the talks with her parents, as the months went on with the war, she was kind of prepared for the final thing. But it was still obviously a tragedy, and it struck her oddly. I'd say now at this point, unfortunately, a lot of it is just kind of in the back of her mind. It's just a thing that happened 10 years ago, albeit tragic. There's still so little coming from Johto as far as news or anything, no new developments really. And so it's kind of hard to stay on top of all that. She goes back and forth between like being frustrated that the government didn't do more to step in, but at the same time, she's still learning more about Pokemon. And it's, like you say, how do you deal with a Pokemon that is like hotter than the sun? Or how do you deal with a Pokemon that can, create a small black hole or things like that? So it's hard to find a solid stance.
I found it interesting, Riz, that you said that, not that I am surprised, but I found it interesting that you specifically said that Cassie went to her dad first. So I guess, is it safe to say that in general, when it comes to things like this, she tends to go to her dad more often than she goes to her mom?
I think that her relationship with her, like she was on good terms with both of her parents, but I think she was definitely on better terms with her dad. She did work closely with both of them, her dad in his studies, and her mom in like the mart and everything. But, the mart was just working for one.
Yeah.
And then with her dad, it was like exploring all of these curiosities,
Yeah.
It was still work and there was research and everything, but at the same time, it was fun, whether because of the material itself or because I feel he made it. So,
Yeah.
so I definitely think, especially when it's concerning Pokemon, that she would go to him for his expertise first.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So for Ella, so for Noir, this event affected her the least because she wasn't there, and this event didn't happen in her specific world or universe, but something else happened instead. So, well, that was directly affected you personally. So,
Yeah.
so I guess what I'm trying to ask is, you don't have to give any details if you don't want to about the stuff that happened on your end of things, but clearly when you came here to where the campaign is taking place, you learned about what happened to Johto, and I'm sure that you were reminded by what happened to you, because the events aren't exactly the same, but the scale of the events is comparable, I would say. So I guess my question for you is, how did that affect you when you came here and found out that, well, silver lining, X thing didn't happen here, but Y thing did? Like, did it affect you in any way, or not, because, it happened, and it happened while I was not here, therefore I don't need to worry about it?
No, I found out about the Johto in this world. It's probably very, like, huh? Very
Yeah.
confused and didn't couldn't quite wrap around her head around it at first. Because, her grandmother was originally from there, from Ikatik City in particular. So she probably visited the place once or twice. Not very often because didn't have a lot of money, but she probably even visited when it was in this timeline where it was occupied. So I feel but I remember being in those places, and then they might have on the news shots of places and all destroyed and stuff. And I imagine that would have reminded her a lot of the incident that happened to her and her world. And she probably would have found out about it in Kalos.
Yeah.
And that would have started, after that would pretty much started her nightmares. Probably started having nightmares about what happened afterwards. And eventually it just got so bad that she kept seeing Kalos all around her, perfectly fine, but where she was from, it wasn't fine. So she's like, I can't live here anymore, going to Kanto.
Yeah. Kalos was the opposite of Unova, in that Kalos tried to stay away from the war as much as possible. So they had the attitude of, it's not our problem, we're just going to be the neutral party here. Thank you, Triz. I wasn't going to say that, but thank you. It's not, we're hands off. So they were very hands off. Whereas Unova was like, let's show those Pokemon, teach them a lesson, and I would say that Kanto, again, they were I told you so, but they still, I would say, were in between the two extremes, because this is right next to them. So of course they're going to try to help out with the war effort, because this could be them too. So just to give you some flavor about the overall attitude in Kalos. Now, whether or not the citizens of Kalos agreed that, we were just going to keep our hands off with this and maybe it'll just go away, that's that's up to you to specify if you want. Okay, good. Lots of insight. Sorry to be such a downer in the beginning, but this might be important later on. But in addition to that, I'm just letting Cassie know that she does get a text message from her mother that morning. And it's a very simple text message that says, hey, we haven't talked in a while. You should come visit sometime. Soon. Mom, is what the text message says. So I don't know if you will text her back, but we'll get to you after we get to Tiffany. So Tiffany, you got the news. What do you do? And who are you with?
That's a good question. Is Molly still out shopping is the question right now.
I'd like to think that Molly's probably hanging out in the hotel lobby, probably looking on her phone for decent shopping places before she goes out.
Then Molly is getting a text. Got news in my room ASAP. Please send.
So yeah, Molly's a little confused by that, but she shrugs and she turns around and heads back to Tiffany's room.
Okay.
Yeah, Tiffany's in the doorway waiting for you. So. Okay, good. Come in.
Sure. What's up?
Okay. Okay. Goes over, sits down on bed to stop from pacing. Okay, the thing you asked me to look into. I got news.
Molly thinks for a minute. Thing. Yeah, the thing. Remind me what that was?
Your parents?
Oh,
Foster
right.
parents?
Right. Sorry. Terrible memory,
Yeah. So I got a text from my father. Email actually. Well, I'm not sure you're gonna take it. Because it starts out with some good news. We have an address in Pallet Town.
Oh, that's great. What is it? Let me write it down.
Actually, let me finish because it might be a moot point. Okay, so last year they rented an octowl. The theory is they were looking for you. And, okay, you know how my door was the wall? It's believed it went down on the wrong side of the Jonto wall.
Wait. So you're saying that Dylan and Irene are they're out there somewhere and they were looking for me. And they're on the other side?
That's what the information I was given. Yeah.
So
what do you want to do?
Molly's all the color is slowly draining out of Molly's face. And she didn't hear Tiffany's last question. She's just staring.
Sweetie, you have a team of people around you. Come on, focus on me.
Molly passes out. She passes out on the floor.
Oh, goody. Hey. Goes in bathroom, gets glass of water, tries splashing it on her face. Come on, sweetie, wake up.
So, I don't know, out of character, I don't know if you've ever passed out or not, but when you wake up, there's a moment of time when you still can't really see anything, and your mobility isn't quite back. That's the stage that Molly is in. So she wakes up and she's crawling toward the door. She says, "I have to go."
Okay, now Tiffany's going to try to intercept that, at least get her up to her feet. Sweetie, calm down.
I have to go now. We have to go.
Yes, we do, but we also need to do preparation. You know you have the full backing of everyone. And if you don't, I will kick their ass until you do.
So Molly's sitting up. She's getting her vision back. She's starting to get a little bit of mobility back. And she kind of grabs Tiffany's arm. She says, You'll come with me, right?
Yes, obviously. Pulls her into a hug. It's gonna be okay. Stroking her. It's gonna be okay. I promise. We will fix this. This was my door for a reason, right?
It's all my fault, Tiffany. They were looking.
No,
for
sweetie, it's no one's fault.
If I didn't
These
run
things
away,
happen. Sweetie, calm down. We'll fix this. I promise. Okay. I'm gonna get everyone in here. I hope everyone's back from whatever it is they've been doing all morning. Are you going to be okay while I go make calls? Actually, I can sit right here with you. Come on. Goes over to bed, sits down, takes out phone, one-handed, dials Noir.
Noir, your phone is ringing. I don't know where you are at the moment.
Noah, you probably get like a busy signal because she's probably on the phone with Fabian's school and stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Noir hangs up, tries Cassie, who Chase
Wow.
should still.
While Tiffany's doing that, I think Molly's going to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, Tiffany's watching you like a hawk as you go, just to make sure you're not going to bolt for the door. Then once you're in the bathroom, goes up and stands in front of the door.
Yeah.
You're not bolting.
Cassie, will say that your phone starts to ring right around the time that you just checked your text message from your mom.
For simplicity's sake, let's say that's in the desert with Chase.
Sure.
I was gonna say, do you want to
We'll
be
say that
like
you're with
just
Chase.
as they're leaving that,
Yeah, I would say that.
coming back into the city?
Sure.
Okay.
Cassie?
So she'll actually, she'll upon the ringing, she'll check her phone, and that's when she'll first actually see the message. But the call takes precedence, so she'll answer and say hello.
Cassie, great. Is Chase with you?
Yeah. Do you need him?
No, I need both you back at the hotel ASAP.
What's
Molly
going
is
on?
freaking out. I found out maybe what happened to her parents, and she's not taking it well. I'd rather just tell everyone at once. Can you please get back with him?
Yeah. We'll be back soon.
Okay. I'm gonna try Noir again.
All right. Good luck.
Hangs up.
No goodbye. I see how it is. Screw
Priorities.
you too.
Freaking out,
Just say
Molly.
goodbye
Come
and then
on.
hang up.
Tries for Noir one more time.
Does she get through, Noir?
Yeah, she'll probably be finished talking to Fabian's school, just prepping them to say with maybe a new Pokemon might be joining Fabian
Yeah.
if they get along well, just like to make up a social story. So they
Yeah. They're all for
Prepping.
it. They think that it would be good for him. Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, awesome. That sounds great. Ends the call, and then go not call. I missed call. Okay, ring. Hello.
Finally. Okay, get back ASAP.
Oh, sorry. Okay, is something wrong?
Yeah. Remember I was looking into Molly's foster parents? Not good news,
Oh.
apparently. And it has to do with my door, so please get back. I've
I'll be
already
right
called
over.
Cassie, Chase. They're on their way. Are we calling Kylan on this?
Probably.
Okay,
He's a
I'll go get him.
detective. He might have resources. I don't know.
Okay, hangs up. Knocks on bathroom door. Molly, sweetie, I'm just gonna go get Kyle, and everyone's on their way back. Okay? Are you gonna be all right in there?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I won't try to run. I promise.
You better not, because I'm not a fast runner, but I would try taking you down. Okay, gonna go get Kyle.
While
Heads out.
while Tiffany was making the calls, Molly was just standing in front of the sink. She was just staring at herself in the mirror, and some of the things that she's noticing about her appearance is how tired she looks. She looks extremely tired. She has like dark circles under her eyes and everything, and she kind of bows her head a little bit, and she when she hears Tiffany leave, she starts saying, Arceus, Cresselia, or whoever's listening right now. I don't know if you're gods or not. But if you are, then just give me a break here, please. I'm not a smart person. I don't have a lot of money, but I don't care about that. I've never asked you for anything. But Irene and Dylan, they're the only family I've ever known. Just let me bring them back. Let me bring them back safely. Is that too much to ask? She wipes her eyes. She splashes water on her face. She's thinking, okay, I can't let them see me like this. I gotta stay calm, stay calm. And she's there waiting for everyone else.
Okay.
Mm.
Tiffany, you go up to, I'm assuming the hotel room of Lieutenant Jenny and Chase, I'm assuming?
Mhm. Yep.
You knock on the door?
Mhm.
He'll open it, and he is back in his officer's uniform.
Okay.
And you can see behind him that he's already all packed up and ready to go.
Of course, yes.
Of course he is. Tiffany.
Okay, Ollie's freaking out. We got some news about her foster parents. It's not good. They're on the other side of the Jonto wall. The rest of the team's en route. We're going to talk about it when they get in. Do you want to be a part of the meeting?
Her parents are in Johto. I can understand her not taking it very well, he says
Yeah.
with a concerned look on his face.
Apparently for over a year. Or around a year.
I have to admit I'm not the most optimistic person in the world, but for her sake, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
All right. Yeah, take his arm and go back.
Okay, you take his arm and you go back. We're just gonna fast forward and say that you all end up meeting in Tiffany's room, Tiffany and Molly's room.
Tiffany Noir room, yeah.
Tiffany Noir room. Okay. All right, you guys are gathered there.
Molly's come out of the bathroom. She just sits there.
Nice, sweetie. Do you want to tell them or do you want me to tell them? This
go
is
ahead.
your show going forward. Okay. All right. Some of you already know, some of you don't. Molly asked me to look into her foster parents, see if she could find an address or... Well, I got news today. I do have an address for Pallet Town. Unfortunately, they haven't been there for about a year now. It's believed they crashed in Johto.
In Johto?
Yeah. And thinking about what my door is and the wall, this kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no kidding. The Arceus, Molly, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So what's our plan?
Our
I'm
plan?
going.
Obviously, we're going. It's more just, I would like time to set things up. Noir has to think about Fabian. We're going 100%. That's not a question.
Cassie's gonna look at Kyle.
I guess he'll notice that you're looking at him, and he looks at you back. And I mean, his face is full of concern, but he doesn't say anything unless you speak to him. I think
Well,
right now
after-
he's just listening.
After holding his gaze for a moment, she'll just kind of like bite back whatever she might be thinking and look at the others and wait too.
Nora will go to Molly and like gently go for a hug to kind of comfort her. Does she resist or pull away?
She doesn't resist, but she doesn't return the hug either. She's just sitting there with her head in her hands.
He'll like rub her back and go, we'll find out what happened.
Chase walks out of the room.
Really?
Chase, no.
Jumps on her feet, goes after him. Get back here.
I'm not ready. And he goes to the Kyle. He goes towards Kyle's room across the hallway, or to
If
their
he's
room.
tracking him.
So he gets into the room and he starts unbuttoning Kyle's shirt, takes off Kyle's pants. Puts on his jeans and puts on his black hoodie
That
and
sounds
zips
so
all the way
weird.
up.
Is
then walks
Tiffany actually in
across.
the room with you or locked door? Okay.
Yeah, he didn't care. And he's
Yeah,
walking
seen
back
it already.
towards. And if you're talking, he's not listening anymore. And
Chase?
as he passes by you, he zips up his hoodie all the way and he walks into the room.
Just to specify, you're currently wearing Kyle's
Yes,
clothes, right?
yes.
So
That's
when you
right.
said that you're unbuttoning Kyle's shirt and taking off Kyle's pants,
Come on,
you
Hart.
mean
Don't
that
ruin
the
the
ones
tension
that are
of
on
the moment.
yourself?
Me.
I'm assuming.
I mean,
Oh, trust me.
that's how
If
you
this
deal with
were the
stress.
other way around.
Wait, you didn't hear the line about I drag Kyle back with us?
That's right. I took Kyle with me.
Oh, well, in that case,
As I've left the
you
room,
know,
to
that's
again
how the
shut
fun
the door
party
behind me,
ends.
started taking off Kyle's pants. I'm like,
Oh, jeez.
okay.
That
Well,
is
you
not
did
a
say she
reaction.
was in the room, so
No.
Just to clarify.
It's like,
Anyway,
not a direction I was expecting this conversation to
I
go.
know. I was
No.
like, what?
you're going to be
Well,
high
that's
drama
kinda
and all
random.
serious. I took
And,
it Kyle was still in the other room.
I mean, I was like, I told you you'd have to make the first move, but
Ah,
dogs on it, Chase.
And you
was
dragged
direct.
Tiffany in with you, too. Wow. That says
Not
something.
only the first, but the second, third, and 10th. My goodness. Okay.
Jeez.
All right.
anyways.
Back to the
So
series.
yes,
Okay.
Chase and
Anyway.
Tiffany in that room, the rest in the other.
Everybody
Yeah.
else with Kyle's own shirt and pants in the other room.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he walks back while zipping up his hoodie all the way. And as soon as he gets in the room, he says, "Everyone, pack up. Let's go."
Can we talk about this a little bit more before we make any decisions?
There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, there is. Fabian? You can't just leave with Felicity indefinitely. I think she'd mind.
Yeah.
I'd
and
also vote talking about Jodo.
also,
Agreed.
if we do go to Jodo, we could die over there. So definitely make sure we arrange things if that was the case.
I'm not going to lie. Kyle says we have to make sure that we take in consideration that, yes, this could be a one-way trip if we do decide to go.
I'm ready for that. Irene shed her own blood for me. I'm going.
Look, guys, I really don't want to be that person, and Molly, I really am terribly sorry about this, but this happened a year ago? Is that right?
Yeah.
Then if we're thinking about this realistically, they're either already dead or they can survive another time.
I can't live with myself until I know for sure. But you're right on the second point.
And we're going over there at some point, of course we are, but do you guys honestly think that we're ready right now to go into a place where the military failed?
No, not at all.
Well, unlike the military, we're not there to counter the Pokemon or anything. We're just going in to get two people, we'll find out what happened to them, and get out.
So we're going into a region that none of us are familiar with to look for two people who may or may not still be there. And we're in a country that's just overtaken by Pokemon. Any laws that we find comfort in here, they don't exist there. Anything that we feel we might be able to do in order to help ourselves in a situation, we don't know if that'll still be applicable. I want to help, I really do. I just, if we're thinking about this, we really need to think about this.
Yes, we do. Agreed.
Yeah. And
If
Yes, Kyle?
Cassie's right, if we go in, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't go at all, but if we do decide to go in, we need to be prepared. And I'm not going to lie to you, going into Johto does make me very nervous, but I definitely understand Molly's concerns. Definitely. I just want to make sure that we don't just leap without thinking about how.
We know how. When you want to leap, you use both your feet.
I prefer checking first.
Definitely contact an expert or something about the region's current state, at least.
Kyle, do you have any ends with the Rangers?
I have a friend in the Rangers, yes. I'm sure that if we wanted to get information, they would be the ones who'd be able to inform us.
All right. And actually, out of character, did the email say maybe an estimate of where it went down? Because it's a pretty big wall.
No, basically, the reason why they know where they were is because the people who were providing information said that Irene was talking to her sister at the time that the storm hit, and she informed her sister that they were, well, that they were being, that she can see that they are just past the wall and going into the Johto region. And they were trying to fly back, but the winds are just very, very strong, and it was very difficult for them to navigate through. So the last contact, she informed them that that's what they were, just over the wall in the Johto region.
I'll search the whole country if I have to.
Although, there's one thing that we need to keep in mind. What about our Pokemon? What are we...
I'm assuming they're coming with us.
I wouldn't
Molly.
want to take Fern over there.
Molly stands
I
up.
don't want to take Remy there.
Molly stands up and she's Chase says we need both of our feet. And if the humans are one foot, then our Pokemon are the other foot.
Looks over at Chase.
I want-
Lux, he don't tell me he'd come.
He'd probably come.
From what I understand, some of you do make a good point. Knowing the region, at least what I believe, what little we know of the region, your Pokemon are probably safer there than we are.
Yeah.
But we don't know what could happen.
No.
Here's what I want all of you to do. I want you to go home, sit down with your Pokemon, and seriously ask them if they want to go. If they don't want to go, then I don't want them coming. We've already put our Pokemon in danger by putting them into the PCs. I won't put them into danger again without their consent. And I'll ask Bullet the same thing. No matter what anyone says, if I have to go there alone, I will. I'll find a way.
Sweetie, you're not going alone.
No way.
Look around. You are not alone.
We just want to take a little bit more time to learn more about the region, what's been happening recently, try to narrow down where they might have landed. Because while I know that you would search the entire region, we might not be given the chance if we go over that wall. And you dying wouldn't do them any good.
No.
Molly's not saying anything. She's just holding back tears. Like she
And
knows
you're getting hugged.
she knows everyone's right, but she wants to go right now, but she knows everyone's right.
I know this isn't easy. I'm sorry. Start stroking your hair again. Or her hair.
It's all my fault.
No,
It's all my
sweetie,
fault.
it's not. It's really not.
Sometimes bad things happen, and how much you try to do, or if you did something differently, sometimes it would still happen. And the world is a very cool place.
You don't have to tell me twice.
Kyle actually like takes his hand and he actually, puts a comforting hand on your shoulder.
Molly looks up at the lieutenant and she says, when we first met, I didn't think you would help me as much as you have.
Well, I hope that I can continue to do so.
All right.
It's my job.
First things first. We need to get home. We have a
Yeah.
lot to think about.